We as a group took a trip to the new Arlington Hills Community Center to learn more about what happens there. We asked Kathy Korum from St. Paul Parks and Rec about Arlington and her life growing up on the east side of St. Paul. This is what we found out.
My name is Kathy Korum. I'm the Deputy Director for the Department of Parks and Recreation in St. Paul. I've always thought it was just the coolest place to work is in public service because I get to give back to my community some of the things I feel like my community gave me as a young person growing up. I was on the east side in the 60s and 70s and early 80s. It was primarily white, primarily nuclear families where there was a mom and a dad and 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 kids. We went around, we got places on our feet, on our bikes, and on our roller skates. Our world was kind of 8 or 10 blocks square. I think the things that have changed the most are that the population has become more diverse. The racial and ethnic makeup, how much people move around, the fact that maybe the rec center, the church, or the school isn't one of the central kind of anchors in the neighborhood anymore, and then the makeup of the families that live there. So those are all big shifts, I think, in how that neighborhood worked. The Arlington Hills Community Center that just opened a couple months ago was probably 7 or 8 years in the making. So there was going to be this big, grand facility that met a lot of different needs all in one space. We knew it would be busy. We wanted it to be busy. We wanted there to be kids there all the time. There were a lot of people that helped me grow and develop as a young person, and many of them were in public spaces. It's unfortunate that some of the stories that have come out about Arlington Hills are that it's a place where there's trouble, it's a place where kids fight, and in some cases, the people that are involved in the storytelling haven't even been to Arlington Hills Community Centers. And that's troubling because what's going on inside the walls is some really cool programs. I think a lot of times with media, it depends on who owns the story, who's telling the story. And what's really important to me is when there's negative stories about something like Arlington Hills Community Center, I want to make sure that we find a way for the counter narrative to be able to tell the other part of the story that's happening there.
With all that in mind, we asked both youth and staff their perspective on how Arlington Hills is perceived by others.
Arlington Hills in general, I would say the neighborhood, and therefore by default, this community center, simply because it's a part of the neighborhood, has a reputation for struggling with violence.
But I know like the history behind the center is a lot of it's very negative.
Yeah, a bad reputation.
Most people outside of the rec center would think of it as, you know, a place of trouble.
People view Arlington Hills as very violent and that most of the kids here cause trouble.
I see a lot of people bash on it, mostly about how bad it is with fights.
I feel like everybody look at us the wrong way because we're usually the ones bringing the violence and the disrespect.
I think they see them as what they usually are told about how youth are a lot of trouble.
That something else, but you're not. But when they actually get to know the place, it's not as bad as people may think it is.
As you know, if you're not really there to see any particular thing happen from beginning to end, you don't really know what's going on.
So with all of the negativity in mind, we also found out some pretty cool stuff that's going on at Arlington Hills.
The good thing about this site is that we're both a rec center and a library.
We have all kinds of different programs.
Sports, we have open gym times, we have reading programs, we have
the Create Tech Studio for teens to create all kinds of different things.
Drawing and animation and digital illustration.
Workshops that help youth work with and play with technology.
It's audio production and video production.
A couple of very regular young ladies coming in and learning how to sew.
One week they made disco balls for the room out of broken CDs.
What we're doing is actually really great here.
Yeah, it's fun. You know, I just met some new kids out there and all that stuff, and we clicked, you know.
They think it's like
a chill place to just come and hang out. Be in the Create Tech studio and playing the PS4.
A place for youth to gather and be involved in multiple different activities when they come in here. A hangout place for youth to come to.
Place to play basketball and hang out and stuff.
My best memory is when my best friend first came up here. Kabrina, yes. When she came up here, we hung out. One of my best memories here are hanging out with the people that I already know. Meeting new people, that's fun.
After the trip, we came to the conclusion that Arlington Hills isn't as bad as it has been portrayed in the media. In fact, we found that Arlington has lots of wonderful programs and both youth and staff who care about the future of the East Side. We've also learned that there's two sides to every story.